Hi everyone and welcome to another Monday Memo. Now there's been a lot said and written about emotional intelligence. In particular, that old saying that before we can walk in another person's shoes, we must first remove our own. However, as finance professionals, we know that whilst it's important to understand our colleagues and businesses' needs, wants and desires, so they trust us a bit more and the broader business trusts us a bit more, we need to keep some perspective, that we don't all lose our shoes in the process if we keep taking them off. So, what can we do? Well, look, let's begin by summarizing some research on empathy and perspective taking. The first one is the E test. There was some social psychologist led by Adam Galinsky who coined an experiment called the E test, and some of you might have heard of it. It's where they've asked participants to use their forefinger on their dominant hand to draw a capital E on their foreheads, and then they recorded the way the subject drew the letter E. Now, if you drew it in one particular way, as in the way I'm about to do it now, which is this way, right? It's actually, when you're looking at it, you might actually see that E is drawn from a perspective that allows you to read it properly. So, as in, I've thought about how you're going to interpret it, and you're going to be able to do it in a more efficient manner. Whereas if I didn't think much about what you were seeing and just did it this way, which is a more natural way of doing an E, then that would actually be looking to you as if I've drawn a back to front E. And that's all a test of our perspective taking. It's sort of determine how we make sense of things when we're confronted with unusual or complex situations involving other people. Did we examine it from our own point of view or theirs? And that capability to step outside of our own experience and imagine the emotions and perceptions or motivations of others is actually what it comes to getting more attuned with them. So, what is attunement? Or becoming attuned with others? Well, it's a capability that we can develop to use to our advantage, not only to be understood by our colleagues and business partners and the people we're supporting, but also understand ourselves a bit better and how we can service them or actually come across better to them. Dan Pink in his book To Sell Is Human suggests that we can think of attunement as like an operating dial on a radio. It's our ability to move up and down as the circumstances demand, locking in on what's being transmitted to our colleagues, even if the signals aren't immediately clear or obvious. So, how can we then go on to improve and develop our own attunement advantage? One is to sit in a smaller chair. To become better at perspective taking, we must reduce our power distance. So by that I mean how we choose to think about this could be like going back in time to when we were perhaps in school or at home, sitting in a quite small chair, ready to learn and become more knowledgeable from all those around us, like our teachers or parents or adults, who, if you think about it, probably sat bigger or in a bigger chair. In fact, actually, Galinsky did a follow-up experiment on the E-test and uncovered those with a high-power mindset, where a person who maybe felt like they knew best, or how many, I don't know about you, but I've certainly encountered colleagues who were like that. They were found to be much worse at perspective taking than those who showed a bit more humility and empathy. A second area of improvement perhaps is to maybe think with our heads as well as our hearts. We are human beings at the end of the day, and as accountants and finance professionals we can sometimes get a bit logical, but the reason why that's an improvement area is because if we focus all our time on trying to understand where the other person was coming from, we could probably be quite quickly come in danger of being swept away with all these possible permutations and lose a sense of ourselves. And there was actually further research into successful negotiations, and it found that although empathy was effective, being too empathetic was actually found to be detrimental to discovering creative solutions, as well as putting forward what the parties were really self-interested in. And it was found actually the group that put their self-interest into the mix was actually found to be more successful and develop more profitable business models and solutions. So, ultimately, I think it's a case of ensuring that all parties are considered and that the outcomes are best serve all parties involved. And we can do that in finance by using our visibility, the full field of play, and leverage our curiosity, our natural curiosity, to ask questions that drive to the core of what the other person is thinking. What are they interested in? This is how we ultimately generate valued insights. We do perspective taking, collecting information, connecting the dots, and conveying it back then to their businesses. And a final bit of advice on improving our attunement or getting more in tune is actually to mirror up and get in sync. One way of deepening attunement is actually to mimic our other person's mannerisms that we're speaking with or dealing with. And in fact, it's not a subtle or a manipulative way. It actually is helping them benefit more. It actually improves the efficiency of the exchange. It actually taps into an deep ingrained area of our brains from the earliest parts of our evolution, when most people around us were relatives, people whom we could trust. And it's only been in the last few thousand years, particularly in our profession, as we get to deal with more and more people, it's really important to try and sync up and mirror with other people to match their mannerisms. Question or not whether their patterns match ours or how do we match theirs, because it's not a false objective. It's actually just trying to get in tune more with our nature to the way it used to be, matching our postures, the expressions we have, whether we're leaning back or forward in a chair, not overly doing it, but just subtly doing it, because we still want to keep focus on how do we drive better outcomes for the people we're serving and supporting in the businesses around us. So look, the whole point of attunement is getting out there with our colleagues, helping them open up, better figuring out how we can serve them, meet their wants in a much better way, and also a way to understand others so we can be understood ourselves. And having an appreciation or just even getting in tune with people will help us become better finance professionals. So look, hope you found some of the ideas in this episode useful. If you did, please share it with your friends, colleagues, and subscribe on all the major platforms. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And also, we really appreciate you investing your time with us today. So take care of yourselves, and let's keep on building our strength in the numbers.